Yeah, I welcome everyone to this class. Today we shall be taking a look at the introduction to Adobe After Effects. In here, we shall be taking a look at the Adobe After Effects interface, its tools, its properties, its layers, and comps. So today is just basic. We're just taking a dive into After Effects. So once you launch After Effects, the first thing you see is this panel here, and what you do. I have all of this because of the former projects I've worked on. That is why I have all of this here. So, but the first thing you do as a newbie, right? You click New Project. Then once you click the new project, you should have this interface. But if by any chance your interface is looking a bit different from what I have here, um, yes, just come here, click standard. You have this option, just click standard and double click on it. Then it will bring out this pop-up menu saying blah blah blah. Just say yes, yes, and you should have this now. So, one thing I must encourage you is don't be scared with the too many tabs open here and there. All we just need to do is learn the tools we need to. The first thing I need to introduce you to is the project panel, which we find here. Let me click on it again, which you find here, this place. This is where your whatever item you're importing, whatever item you're also creating natively in After Effects, everything sits here. Everything sits here. So, okay, for instance, let me, yes, to import a file, let me demonstrate that by actually importing a file. To import a file, you now go to File, import. Yes, I barely use this, but this you have the option here. I have Control I or Control I shortcut for that, or you double click here, then it brings File Explorer for you to locate whatever file you want to import into After Effects. So for me here, I will go to my drive. Yeah, so I have here class one. So I want to yes, import this image called runner here. So to import, once you've located it, to import the particular image file, you just double click. So I have this image here now, right? So this is, as we saw the other time, either go to file, then import, or click that, then it takes us to the file explorer, then we locate our file, or we do Control I. So this is also the process to import videos. This is also the process to import audio files and Illustrator files, some what we call vector files and bitmap files. So, but right now, yes, this is just the process. So we have now here, and yes, before we actually get started, um, there's what is called comp, as you can see here. Now, this panel, right? This panel is a composition panel, and also called the preview panel. That is whatever we are doing, This is the place where we get to see what is happening. It's like the it's like the stage. It's like the yes. This way is like the and when you go to cinema, it's like that whole what's it called, the screen that is playing, right, where we get to see everything that is happening. So But to get started, before you start any project, right? Before we even get to use this image that you've imported now in After Effects, the first thing we must do is to actually create what is called composition. Is to create a new composition, and we either do this by clicking here, or we also come here and click this icon here. You see, create a new composition, or we do um, the keyboard short the shortcut for that is Control N. Pardon me for the Mac users. Once I say control, right? Though there's a PDF I would like share for you guys where it gives the Mac version, but over time I've been a PC user, so you will excuse me for that. You should just in a way substitute control with I think it's called, I've forgotten what it's even called in Mac. So the shortcut for to do that is Control N. So I have new composition. So yes, what a composition is like a room where everything happened. Then that preview window, the this preview menu here is like, okay, you know how when you're in a theater, right? A theater is like also a room where all the actors are seated, sets, everything, and properties, everything has are put there for the action to happen, right? Then in front is like there's a wall that is a wall that's been removed for us to see what is going on, right? So in a way, that's I tend to bring that analogy here. A composition is like that room where everything is happening. So yes, and once you do your Control N, or you've clicked somewhere here, you get this option. And once you get this option, you have the first thing is for you to name your composition. So I'll just go and name it intro underscore AE. AE is After Effects, shortcut for After Effects. And I wouldn't, for right now, I wouldn't bore you with the details with all of this. Here is the option to change your dimension. Right now this is full HD, which is 1920 by 1080. If you need more information on that, you can like either DM me, or you can always Google to actually find more information about dimensions and whatnot. But just get this: most times, once whatever you're doing now, right? We are like in what was it called? Generally, videos are done in full HD. That's the major output. In a broader sense, the major output we use is full HD. Full HD. Is that for that? Then we have the frame rate. The frame rate here is okay. If I have the frame rate is that for every seconds, right? How many of images of what we are doing, right? Of what we are doing, how many images are for every second, how many images of what we are doing of our animation will be shown for every second. So the standard version is actually 24 frames, that's image, 24 frame, that's image. That's for the standard version. So I've chosen 24 here. Then this is the major thing you need here. How long would your comp last? How long would the duration of the animation you want to do now, how long will it last? Let me just do 10 seconds, and yeah, just do 10 seconds. So this is frame rate. Then after that you have seconds, then you have minutes, then hours. Yes, that's for that. Then click OK. Then you can also change the background color, but those are minor thing. That's not the major thing for now. So click OK. Once you click OK, then this place is now activated. So this is called a timeline. This is called the timeline. So in here is whatever we are creating now. So remember what I the analogy I give, that a comp is like a room that sits, that where is a room where everything we are doing, we tend to place everything that we are doing, right? So for instance, now I want to make use of this image, right? I can drag it into here, directly into here, right, to start working. So you can see this is the timeline. Whatever we are doing in time, to make sense later on, but this is the timeline. But whatever, every layer, um, every layer, every item I'm working with sits here. You see them here. Every item I'm working with sits. Everything is like, so. This is like the room now, right? Broken down in layers. Okay, let me do, for it to duplicate this. You see, there's another layer, right? So, and for you to see them too, they also, and when I was bringing this in, I can also drag and drop it here directly. I'm not having to bring it here. You know what? Let me bring in another image so that I just double clicked. It took me to that. Let me bring another image so that you to make more sense for some other people. To make more sense for to us. So in the sense that I'm having more than one item. That's to tell you that this place is what contains whatever item we are doing. So, so far, right, I've been working with, okay, I can take this, move this here, and oh, yes. So, so far you can see I have two items here, right? They are sitting inside this composition called, can you see, intro to AE, that's After Effects, right? And this is the preview. This place allows me to see what is actually every item that I've placed inside there, for me to see them. So this place, it allows me to see them broken down in layers. Then this place allows me to like hide some things. This place gives me that control to, which is the preview, the preview window. It gives me the control to tell a particular one, you know what, I want you to come in at a particular time and I want you to go out at a particular time. So that's what this place does for now. So then apart from importing like these images we've done, we can also always create and so far, right? So far, I've been using by automatically when you open your After Effects, there's a particular tool, and this is okay. This is it's your tool panel. This is where your tool sits, right? So far, I've been using this particular tool called Selection tool. I have the hand tool, right? And yes, what the hand tool does is that it allows me to just move my preview window, which is yeah, which to a large extent doesn't really have practical, but the tools we'll be using for now is this and this shape. Yes, the shape tool. The shape tool, that's what we'll be using for now. So apart from that, right, yes, to create other types of items, which the proper name is actually layers. That's what they are called. To create other items, we either come here, we either select it here, that's this particular one I've selected, right? And create, and make sure for you to create a new item, right? Using this shape tool, right? You make sure that you don't have anything selected, because right now I have this selected. If I do that, it won't create a new tool, rather it will only mask. So they call this mask. This is what is called mask. So that's not what I want to do. I press Ctrl Z. I want to create another item, another layer, right, using this shape. So I unselect by clicking outside, or I press a shortcut. On that, a shortcut for that is Control Shift A. Let's say I have this selected. Now Control A selects everything. Control A selects everything. Then Control Shift A. Control Shift A deselects everything. Right. So yes, once I have everything deselected, then I can now once and I have this selected too, these two selected, then I can create an item of I can actually create this particular item, right? So these are another item. So you can see automatically once I did that, an item here is created in the layer panel here. It's created and it got its own um, so you can also see it in the timeline here, right? You can also see it in timeline. Can't remember what this thing is actually called. This I've just moved it a bit now. But you can see its own its layer in the timeline. So you can see it there. So this what I just done now is called as you can see it's called shape layer. So on that way to create a shape layer instead of going directly here, you can come to this menu bar here and go to layer and new. Now there are plenty type of layers here, but the one we'll be focusing on just now is the solid text and shape layer. That's this one. That's one we'll be focusing on now. So instead of apart from the other way that I showed you, so a way to create a shape layer is to come to layer, layer menu, then new, then shape. Once you click shape, it creates it creates a shape layer. It creates a shape layer. However, the shape layer is just empty. It's just empty up until I come here. I also use this and draw. Yes, I use it to draw something. Yeah. You might be wondering what happened to the other layer. What I did was I made it invisible, which the technical term is actually to shy a layer. I made it invisible by clicking this I button. Yes, let me close all of this. Yes, I made it invisible. You know what? And with this, I cannot. Let me just change this color so to be different. So you see the difference. So I made it invisible. You can always make layers invisible through this property. So yes, that's for that. Then that's what is called. Yes, the other item I said we'll be looking at is called the solid layer, and the keyboard for that is Control Y, right? And remember, for me to do that, I need to deselect all of this. Then I come here, I do solid. Yes, it gives me the option to name, and by default, a solid layer takes the size of your composition. Remember what I hinted out that time that our composition is full HD, which is 1920 by 1080. Please, if you want to have more information about dimension, please feel free to DM me. Then maybe I will, yeah, just feel free to DM me or just type on Google dimension. Then you get more information about that. So by default, it also creates, yeah, it named it white solid. It names it white solid, so I can like rename it to say example. So and click OK. See, it gave it the exact size with my composition. So let me let me make it invisible. So with all of this, right? With all of let me also make this one invisible. So Okay, I think I should scale this down. But before then, let me just go. There's what is called, okay. Remember, we are here to animate, right? So with all of this, you've seen different type of items that are available to us in After Effects. Okay, before then, let me quickly introduce you to the text layer, which is for us to do that. I have I can always come here, layer new, then text, right? Then it has a very long shortcut. Or I do Control Z, right? I come here and click this, the two here, the text two here, and yeah, and type. Um, that's if you're familiar with some design softwares before now, this wouldn't be strange to you. That you would know that, okay, once you start typing, right? Once you have a type 2, right, the very option that should come up is this option here, this one here, where it allows you to change font. It allows you to like scale the the item what you just typed up, right, which I've just done. So in a nutshell, that's the in a nutshell, that's like the major um, items or the layers that we'll be working with regularly in um, in After Effects. So with that said, the next thing I need to go into now is to, so we have so far, okay, so far these are the major interface that we need. As I said here, that you need to know, you just need to understand first off right now. There's what is called the project panel. Here is a preview. The project panel is where everything we are working on sits. For instance, I imported these chairs. I imported, they are all sitting here. And for you to do anything at all, you do what? You do either you press Control N. A Mac user, please, you should you press Control N to create a new composition. Once that is done, you can now start bringing in the items. So because before you start, right, there must have been, you already have the story you want to tell, right? So once you create the composition, the next thing is for you to start, okay, bringing your item either as pictures or solid and all of that. So then after that, right? Um, You know what? Let me not even go. Let me not. Then after that, let me just go straight to the properties. Now, properties are what allows us to make changes. They are what allows us to make changes to. And how animation works is that, you know, animation is the idea of animation is that you are giving life to an inanimate object. You know, they are not. You know, every object that we are working with doesn't they don't have life, right? But we are the one giving them life. And how does every living thing that lives, right, there's really a change happening. So when that change occurs, what is actually happening is that there's a particular attribute that they have. Is it that they move from point A to point B? So at a particular time they were at point A. Let's say for instance this was at point A, right? Then at a particular time, they've now moved to this. So when it was at point A, there's a property attached that it's embodied at that particular time. There's a property. So what do I mean by property? When I come here, for instance, and let's just focus on, you know what, let me make all of this invisible and let's focus on this shape for now. So once you click this, once you click here, you begin to see, you see content, right? You begin to see its property, right? You begin to see every property associated with this particular layer, which happens to be the shape layer, which happens to be a shape layer. So you find here, there are plenty other attributes here, but the one we need to focus on in this class now is called the transform. It's called the transform tool. So with the transform tool is what we use to change its attributes. So at this particular time, you can see there are some um, figures attached to each of these. For instance, the scale is 100 because when I drew it, right, it gave it okay. When I drew this particular thing, it gave it a scale of 100. So that means at each point in time, I can make this bigger, I can make this smaller, right? I can change the position, I can bring it back. You see, and I can opacity. So okay, so the anchor point. Okay, let me just break everything down one after the other. The anchor point, and yes, the anchor point is where, just like anchor point is like the hinge where everything is the hinge that holds everything, that hold anything. Yeah, it's like is the hinge that holds any particular layer per se. Is where the layer sits. For instance, as I selected this anchor point, as I selected the anchor point, this became very, 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 very visible. This icon here became very visible. So that's the anchor point. That means whatever I'm doing, especially scale and rotation, especially scale and rotation property. Once I'm changing the once I'm changing scale and rotation property, the change will occur where this particular thing sits, and it's called the anchor point. So that's what anchor point, this particular property, does. Though if I do this, it allows me to change, but this is not the best way to go about this. Later we'll talk about it, but just know that the anchor point is where it is like the hinge, it's like the pin that holds a particular item. And this happens, and you find this even in our body, right? There's a particular place where our arm is pinned, right? There's a particular place where our shoulder, right? That's the pelvis, right? Where our what did I just say? Shoulder, our torso. Yes, our torso is pinned. So our torso is pinned near the pelvis, or in the pelvis area. Then our leg, interesting enough, is not pinned. That's our leg, and yes, the whole of our leg is actually pinned back to the torso, near the torso there. So that's what the anchor point is. Then position is self-explanatory. At each point in time, where is this person, where is this item, where is it situated at each point in time? Then scale is okay. So and with the position, we can use it to change where it is at a particular time. That's x and y. Though later on, once we move to like 3D and all of that, there's also the z space. Later we'll talk about that, but right now we only have that's left and right. This allows us to move it left and right, and this allows us to move it up and down, right? Then scale it up and down. And notice, remember what I told you about the anchor point. Notice once I'm scaling, it's all happening around here. right? Now, to move this anchor point, right, there's this tool, or the shortcut for it is Y. There's this tool here. Can you, there's this tool here called pen behind tool here, here. So to move it, all the while, once I'm scaling up and down, you can see how it is behaving, right? But imagine when I move this to somewhere here, you will notice the difference now. You see, it's now near this, scaling near this particular place. So that's the scale property. Then the rotation. Remember what I told you, that for the anchor point, the major attribute it really affects, the other major attribute it really affects, property it really affects, is the scale and rotation. So for instance, this rotation is happening here now, and once I because I still have my pen behind to selected, then I can always come back here. I can always just move this to maybe, in fact, another place somewhere here. So once I still rotate, you see it rotates from there. Then opacity has to do with how a layer is visible, or how a layer is visible or not. Where opacity has to do with is derived from the word opaque, right? That's we can't see through. That's when you say you are too opaque, the opposite of being transparent. That means you can actually see through you. So when we reduce the opacity, it means we are making it more transparent. So with this now, we are making it more transparent. To make this so you can see through it now, we made it more transparent. But then once we move it to 100, is very opaque. So that's that for for the shape layer property, right? For the shape layer, but the interesting thing is that for this for for every layer, they have this similar um, 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 transform tools, right? They have the same transform tools. It's just that these other tools may now be different. For instance, once as we clicked here, as we enter this type, you see its options. The type option is quite different from this one, as being the content. But right now we're not going into this for this particular class. But right now we'll just focus on this transform. So this transform allows us to, and you see it's the same thing, the same thing across all the different layers, even to the, what's it called, even to the, this one is the solid layer. The example here is a solid layer. So even to the, yeah, even to the image that we brought in. So it's the same thing. Let me do that for the image that we see. I've so with this I can always scale this up and down. And by default, whenever you bring a layer in, as far as is a layer that you imported, by default the anchor point is at the middle by default. Then you can now use your pen behind to this particular one here to change it at any point in time. So with that said, now we can start to arrange. So with that said, we can start to um yes, actually do Because remember what I said that you remember I said that these properties, right, are what enables us to give to transform, that's to change the attributes of any particular item that we have that we are working with, or any particular layer. So with that in mind now, I will just give you a little bit um, example of we changing the property and how it now manifests, how it plays out as animation, right? And this whole idea now, what I just said now, it's in a nutshell, which is what is called keyframing. Keyframing is that, okay, frame. Remember the other time we said at each point in time, that's frame. At each point in time. So the next place we'll be moving on to now is to look at how to change this how to change this attribute called how to change the attribute of each item using the transform tools that is by default that After Effects gives to every layer. And how we do that is by the idea of keyframing. For instance, let's say, you know what, before I start, let me now the good thing with a solid layer is that it's usually used for a background. Many times, usually used for a background. So let's use. You can see I'm beginning to put to use each of these layers, right? So I'm using this as a background. Now I can now change it, and the way to change to rename any particular items, right, is once you have it clicked, you press the enter button. The enter button. Once you press enter, you can now change it. So I'm changing it to BG. That's the industry lingo for background that we use. Background. So I have background. So with that, so right now I want to focus on this image to use it as to explain what it means to demonstrate, okay, that when we're actually changing the attributes of a layer, what we're actually essentially doing is animating. So with that, so the first thing I need to do now is to come here and bring out the property, right? Bring out this property. Now there are shortcuts to do this because many times you may not necessarily have to bring all its transform property at the same time. You may focus, okay, for instance, that the image I have in my head, what, yes, and that's the number one thing before you move on to, yes, do right now the focus of this lesson is not so much on animation, but so much of, okay, properties and yes, the transform tool that we have in After Effects, right? But in a way, in doing that, I'm doing a little animation, right? However, one a very key thing about animation is that before you animate, you must first of all picture what you want to do first. Ask yourself, what is it that I want to do? Like the picture I had in my mind about this is that it comes out from somewhere here. It comes from somewhere here. It starts from somewhere here, then comes in. So that's the picture I have in my mind. So with that said now, right, which of these properties, which of these transform tools rather, which of these transform tools can we use to achieve that? Which of these transform tools can we use to achieve that? Right? Then that means only we can only use that means, okay, it's starting away from the screen, as away from, remember what I said, like the stage, away from the stage, then it comes in, right? It comes in. So which attribute do you feel is that? So that should definitely be the position attribute, right? So that means at a particular point in time, let's say at the beginning at 0.00000 right? It's outside. So that means I will need to do what is called recording. I will record it. I will tell it to. I will give it a command and record. I will give it a command. Let's just say, okay, I will give it a command and tell it stay by clicking this button here. What's called the stopwatch, right? Once I click it, it records, and you can see there is a diamond shape added here. There's a diamond shape added here, right? Can you see? There's a diamond shape added here. So what that means is that a part I've recorded its attribute at this point in time. Then it will make more sense for me to now go ahead. Right now I'm moving my timeline indicator. Yes, this is called a timeline indicator. I'm moving it down here. Then I can now come back here now and move, though I can actually drag this now in this way. You can see I'm shaking a bit. For me to avoid this, as I'm dragging it, still dragging it, right, I hold shift, then it maintains a straight line as I'm bringing it in. As I bring it in, it maintains a straight line. So what have I done? So another way to also do this, let's say, okay, you know what, let me delete this, then it goes back to its former place. Another way to do this is to come here, is to use the number here. You can actually type in the number if you actually, but that's been mathematical highly. Then I can now drag this inside by changing this, because when I was doing that manually, it was actually changing here, right? So actually changing here. So what have I done, right? I've given it two commands. The first command was that Mr. Man picture, I want you to be here at this particular point in time. I want you to be here and maintain your position. So it's like you are actually being a director. You are to a large extent every animator. We are both a director and actors too. So at this particular point in time, I told it stay here. This is your cue. Don't come out up until, yeah, stay here. Come out. Then at this particular point in time, that's at 1 second, I need you to fully be outside, right? To be fully outside at this as 1 second, right? Yes, exactly 1 second. I need to be fully outside. So, but the interesting thing with these two that we're using, right? It's There's what is called interpolation. Actually, it's going on. You may not necessarily see, but there's what is called interpolation. By default, it just calculated. Okay, since you told this your actor, that's the image, to at 0.0000 to be outside, but when it gets to but at 1 second, right, it should be fully be here. Then that means right, between 1 second, then every other thing between anything less than a second is usually calculated in frames here. So between 1 second to all of this time, then it needs to have started traveling, right? So the software does that for us automatically. It needs to have started traveling for it to get at 1 second. It needs to now be here. So once we now do playback, we do playback by pressing keyboard space bar. Yeah, press the space bar to do a playback. So this is what we have now. So this is what we have. Your first animation, introducing, bringing in an image. So to a large extent, this is off. So I think you can bring it back. You can bring it back by taking this. Or a way to also move something to reposition things is using your arrow key. It's using your arrow key. That's up and down arrow key. It's using your arrow key. Yeah. So the arrow key left, right, takes something to the left, right? As you can see, it's going left, left, left. Then the arrow key right takes an item, right, to the right. That's in terms of position now. Takes it to the right. Then up takes it up. Then down brings it down. So that's that for that. So this with this now we actually have what is called animation, right? Because animation is about movement, right? It's about movement. So and for it to for it to actually have a successful um yes, a movement that actually makes sense is that at each point in time there's a particular attribute that is changed that you must change, and you must record it. That's okay. At this particular time, which I did in the first one, I recorded this. Okay, at this time I needed it to be here, then it needed to come here in here, then at 1 second it comes in fully.